Okay, let's try this again and see that the intro works this time. And welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael. And tonight's guest, I will say in full transparency, I am super excited to have on. And we've been having a little fun chat in the background, so I totally feel like you all are in for a huge treat with tonight's episode. And as always, the show goes where it goes, so we'll try to cover topics, but we go where we go, so enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my awesome, amazing guest to introduce herself because I cannot do justice to all that she does, so I'm not even going to try. I'll let her introduce herself. So I give you the one, the only, amazing, super insightful Robin Marvel.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I am an author, speaker, engineer. I work a lot with childhood trauma. I had a really tumultuous childhood, grew up pretty rough, a lot of homelessness, a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, and grew up kind of following that path and started drinking at a very young age, became a teen mother, and continued on that path a little bit, and then decided that wasn't the life that I was going to live anymore and started making changes. Not the flip of a switch. I never implied that I just like woke up one day and everything was great. You know, it's not the way life works, but I decided to put the work into myself and into improving. And now I have 7 published titles and an 8th that's slated to come out this year. And I do online courses. I go out and speak all over the country on self-development, self-improvement, with special focus on healing childhood trauma. And so I just do a little bit of everything. And I am an engineer by trade. And so I do that as my 9 to 5 and get to do cool stuff like this, being on your show.
Well, thank you for coming on. And you kind of hinted at, what brought you like your aha moment to changing things, but I'm kind of curious, what were some of the signs that you saw that, made you sit there and say, hey, wait a minute, my life is actually worth living, so to speak, and I need to change my ways?
Well, right. And so basically, I was a young mother and I was working. I mean, I remember this moment because that was like a big catalyst to not being a victim to circumstance anymore. I grew up where everybody around me was a victim to circumstance. Like Like I said, we were homeless a lot. There was not a lot of financial responsibility, a lot of drug abuse and stuff. So I was kind of following that suit, not with the drugs, but drinking. And I was sitting in my living room the morning after I'd gone out, and I had my young daughter running around. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. And I looked at her and I was like, this is not the way my story's going to end. Like, I did not, I grew up the way that I did, but now I'm in charge. And so I had to start learning what I was worth, which sounds so silly to so many people because a lot of people think that's just something that you just always know, but not if you grow up in a neglectful, abusive environment. You don't know that. So I had to start learning that I was worth something. And it sounds so cheesy what I did, but honestly, I just started reading a lot of self improvement books, and one of them, called The Art of Happiness, struck me like a lightning bolt. And it said, this is not verbatim, I'm just kind of summarizing. And it said, stop blaming everybody else for the circumstances in your life. Like, let your spouse off the hook, let your parents off the hook, let your children off the hook, because you're the one in charge of your reality. You're the one in charge. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I was stunned because I'd always been taught stuff happens to you, right? Like, life's just hard. This is the way it's supposed to be. And you struggle, and that's the way it goes. And so it was like the most eye opening thing when I was like, oh my gosh, the ball's in my court. Holy shit, game on. And from then on, I just started working on improving myself. And that's what led to a lot of the exercises. Pretty much all of the exercises in my books are things that I actually did that took me from the struggle and all of the poor choices into the life of success I live now.
So I have, my own books where I talk about, different stuff that I learned, different modalities to try and fix myself thinking I was broken, to the revelation of I wasn't the broken one, and how life changed in that moment. But can you share with some of the people, with not some of the people, with the audience, some of or all of the stuff that you learned and the different modalities that you went through that you felt benefited you the most on your journey? I know it's in the book, but I just think people get something out of hearing it too and can relate.
Oh yeah, and to speak on where you said about you being broken. See, I don't think anybody's broken. I don't think that we can be broken. I think that we're in the different stages of our lives based on the experiences that we've had, and a lot of time it takes learning your worth. I think everything we do is based on what you think you're worth. I think the job you have, the clothes you wear, the person you marry, the way you carry yourself, all depends on what you think you're worth. And when you start learning that self-confidence and you start letting go of what's supposed to be and accepting this is what is and I'm in control of it, it changes everything. It honestly changes everything. And one of the things that I did, and this is what people say is so cheesy, but I will swear by this the rest of my life because it's actually something that helped me so much and changed so much for me, was I wrote the word I love you and I stuck it on the bathroom mirror. And when I would walk by the bathroom or whatever, I would see that and I would say it. And immediately I would start like bashing myself. Cause of course we're like our worst critics. And I would start saying like, why? Like, what are you worth loving? Like, you did this, this, and this. And I would start like in that being mean to myself. And then I had to retrain it. I was like, I would have to literally say, sometimes out loud, even like, stop. But you did this, this, and this, these positive things. You held a door open for this lady. You sat down and read a book with your daughter, whatever, to start retraining the negative self-talk. And that really was pivotal in my growth, in my development, and my being able to start owning my life and start improving who I was overall as a person. That was one of the major things that I did. And leading into the negative self-talk, I had to learn how to not be mean to myself, because we can be nice to everybody else around us, right? But we're meanest to ourselves. And whose voice? I do this activity. I'll do this with you real quick. So name the 5 people that voices that you listen to the most, that impact you the most, that actually have the most pull in your life. If you can think of 5 of them.
Well, one will be strange because it's from the other
What
side,
do you
but
want
that
to
would
tell me?
be my dad.
You don't have to tell me who it is. You keep
Oh,
it to
okay.
yourself. Nope, you just keep the 5 to yourself, and I encourage
Okay.
everyone to do this, and I do it in all of my, conferences. I do this in my books. Any opportunity I get, I share this exercise. So, do you got your 5?
I do.
Okay. Did you list yourself?
Actually, no.
Right? But whose voice do we listen to the most? I mean, literally, like that's just a fact. Who are we with constantly? Who is the most impact on us? Ourselves, our own voice. We might get these other pieces from other people, but what we say about ourselves is our truth, right? We accept it.
Right.
People can say whatever they want about us, and we can take it for truth, or we don't have to. And so our voice is deciding what we think of ourselves every single day. And so most people don't say themselves because you don't think about that but you're your biggest cheerleader or your biggest critic. You make or break yourself every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk yourself right down to nothing and believe it if that's what you want to do. So that was another really big one. And I still to this day practice the no negative self-talk. I did a rubber band, and every time I would do that, I would snap that. I literally wrote the word stop and put it in my pocket. And so I would like anytime I started to like bash myself, I would like feel that and be like, no. And then this one's really pivotal. And I think this helps a lot of people. If you wouldn't say it to a 6-year-old child, if you wouldn't say it to a 6-year-old child, why the hell are you saying it to yourself?
Right.
You are that.
Well, and to me, the funny thing too is like when we're talking about how we don't include ourselves. It's like my mind went to, well, it is my voice, but I take advice from them, and it's like they're a counsel, and it's like I start justifying.
Right,
Yes, I
right. Yeah.
do, but in reality, yeah, if I should have listed myself, and I really get annoyed with myself when I say I should have, because I'm like, that is like one of the I was taught worst phrases
Hmm.
ever to use is don't use the word should in your language.
Yeah, the shoulda, coulda, woulda. It gets all of
Yep.
us. Yeah, and it's funny because, like you were saying, like you get the feedback from other people, and that, but it has to become your truth because, like I said, anyone can say anything they want about you, and that's um why loving yourself is so critical because people can say whatever they want and you get to interpret it and go, yep, that's true about me, nope, that's not true about me. But ultimately it's you deciding. You label yourself, that's what the thing is. And I try to, when I work with kids especially, because they're so influenced by bullies and outside voices, and they're so being molded right now, right? And so
Right.
I try to pound that home, like, listen, like, you decide if that's true or not about you. They can say it all they want, but you make the decision if that's true about yourself or not.
Yeah, and the point I was going with the justification that you start is what I always sit there and always will watch scenarios, watch experiences, even my own experiences. I love to watch from the third person. And the biggest thing I've ever noticed is why do we as a people, or I myself, always feel like when something is pointed out, we feel the need to go into justification mode, like justify why we did what we did or why we thought what we thought, instead of just accepting, yeah, you're right, I should have.
Yep.
It's like we're like, no, it's not I should have accepted it. It's, well, I did, but I just didn't think that's what you wanted to hear. And it's like, I'm not needing to justify anything. Why am I in justification mode?
It's the people pleaser in you. And we all have it, but some of us it has more control over our lives, but we're trained from a young age to always make people happy. As a young kid, like you're trying to appease your parents or your grandparents, and then you go to public school and you're trying to appease your teachers and then your girlfriends and your friends, you know what I mean? So we're always trying to please people and finding the truth within ourselves and going, nope, you know what? This is my journey. It's my life. I'm making the decisions for it. Um, then you can free yourself from that level of people pleasing. But we all have that. I know we do.
Right. So let me ask you this from your personal experience and from your life history. How do you see when you're in that mode, and what do you do to help keep yourself from returning and getting stuck in that mode, like the justification or the people pleasing?
Because I know I'm very strong in my convictions of who I am and where I wanna go, and I feel like I didn't go through all of that stuff because it's hard to change. It's a challenge for any of us just to change, like, our favorite pop, like, we get we get addicted to our soda, whatever you guys call it down there in Texas, but we call it pop up here in Michigan, but just to change that is a big deal, right? So,
Yeah,
imagine changing something that has been who you are for all of these years. And I went through a lot of hell to get to be who I am right now today. And so I like that. I like who I am today. So there's no doubt in myself that I'm just going to keep growing and excelling, and I stay focused. I work on myself all the time. I don't ever think I know I won't ever be a finished product. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be learning, always going to be growing, always going to be changing in a positive way. So there's no thought pattern of mine. I've changed those habits. And that's what I really focus on in my books and my workshop, especially my online course is about where these are not just changes that we think about. These are habits. These are going to change our actual habits so we don't go back to it. I mean, there's scientific study after study after study that, rehearsing something over and over and over makes you better, makes you stronger. And that's really what we have to do with our habits and gaining new ones so we don't keep those mindsets. It's a total shift. And that's what I do for people in, like I said, in my books and especially in my online course.
right. And I'm like hearing in my head as I'm hearing you talk and explain this. It's like my brain, like goes, I can totally see her in the Marvel universe. I wonder with her last name, does she ever get people walking up and being like, you really belong in that Marvel universe? Or is that why you picked that as your last name? Because you're from that universe?
Yeah, it actually is my last name though. So yep. So it's just Robin Marvel. I don't have a middle name, so I'm just Robin Marvel. So
Hmm. I often find that interesting why some people have a middle name and some don't.
yeah. Yep. Mine was a fluke. I thought I did my whole life growing up, but I went and got my birth certificate because I was speaking in New York, but I wanted to go through Canada to do that. And this was years ago before you needed like the enhanced license and all that stuff. And I went and got my birth certificate and there was no middle name. And I said, Mom, my whole life she's been telling me my middle name was Jean, but it was in fact not. And so anyway, yeah, so I'm just Robin Marvel. There we go.
Well, I don't see why you couldn't be Robin Jean Marvel just
Yeah,
because it's not on a birth certificate.
that's true. That's very true. I have been my whole life, so
I kind of wonder. I don't, this isn't in your bio, but have you ever thought about like past lives or something that name could be connection to something in that arena?
I've actually had a past life reading done. My aunts were very much into energy and doing past life regressions, and I actually had one done. Boy, how old was I? 19, and I actually was an Indian and died in the past life and everything. Went through the entire regression, and it was really cool. It was a really neat experience. She did like entity removal and things like that too, and that was incredible. Like, I mean, I fully believe in energy for sure. I mean, obviously, and so those were really good experiences.
And talking about entity removal, there's been talks now of coming up with all the hardships and life. Was it due to an entity attached, or was it naturally you just could say had the bad luck of going through that? But I wonder your thoughts, with your past, since, you had at 19 entities removed, do you feel like some of your experiences might have been due to the entities attached?
I don't. I think that my experiences were based on choices that were made, obviously that were made for me when I was a child. So when my mom was pregnant for me, my older sister passed away, and they told her like she'll never make it. You should abort and all that stuff. And my mom was like, absolutely not. And she carried me full term. I do believe that some of my um, energetic makeup is a reflective of that, like maybe some of the ways that I'm emotion, the ways that I have a lot of empathy and things. I think that did imprint that because I mean it's been proven that the child goes through the experiences and emotions and trauma that the mother goes through, and so I think that that has some residual effects. But I think the situations that I faced have been my own choices that I've made, whether they were poor choices or good choices, because I fully believe I'm in charge of my life now and creating my reality as it goes based on the choices that I make. So I think that that's really the impact that, and I think I've needed all these for lessons and growth to out to level up, to become the next version of me and to improve on who I am and be able to go out and help people who are in the same situations or have experienced the same kind of things that I have. And I think that that's been a really humbling and experiences that I'm really grateful for. I don't look back at my childhood and think, "Oh, I'm so mad." I have forgiven my mom and dad years and years and years ago because they were doing the best that they could. You know, they didn't have good upbringings either, and it's just a generational cycle until you break it, and you have to be strong enough to break it because it's not. It comes with challenges, and it comes with you having to be a very strong person. And most people that you know and I know just are have plateaued. They're just going through the motions, you know, and you know it when you're saying like, "How was your day?" "Oh, same old," you know, and and they're just like living the dream, you know, sarcastically because they're not happy in their own lives, but they're too scared to do anything to make it different. You know, they're too scared to take steps that go, okay, I'm going to better myself and here's how I'm going to start and then stick with it because it's easier. It's easier just to stay in the pattern, you know. That's why so many people don't break generational cycles because that's what you know. You know what I mean? You just keep going through the motions and doing what you know.
I do, and I respect that. And actually, I love that answer about, not blaming the entity
You're
and
right.
owning it, because I used to always think about, man, I could go back in time and fix this and fix this. And we don't think about what repercussions come from that. And finally, I realized one day and I was seriously thinking about, man, if I went back in time and changed this one event, I would not be who I am. And not only that, everybody around me in that experience would not be who they are. And I was like, that's too much pressure. I am not going back in time and changing anything, because I was like, no, there is too many experiences and too many different elements and aspects with different people that it's like,
Yep.
I don't want to be responsible for that. And I also came to the realization, much like you were saying, I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for every hardship and every blessing I had growing up.
Right, exactly. It's shaped you. It's made you who you are.
And so, yeah, and so I appreciate you sharing it that way, because that is something I think a lot of people don't think about. They think, oh, I made this choice and it, turned out for the worst, and now I'm stuck and I can't do anything. And instead of going, well, this choice showed me that this isn't what I want, so now let's flip to the other choice to where it is what I want.
Yep, exactly. Yep. That leads a lot into like failure. Like I always tell people, I don't believe in failure. And the reason why is because you always learn something, right? Like no matter what, you're going to learn something. So how can you fail when you're gaining something? That's my perspective on it. It's not everybody's perspective on failure, but it is mine because it's a stepping stone. If you go out to try to do something and you don't succeed at it, you learned what not to do. You learned some tips and tools to go on and do something different. So how is that a failure? That's a win to me. Even if you didn't get your projected end game, you still went out and you made those choices and you made some things and you learned. So you can't fail if you're learning because that's the whole plan, right? Is to learn and grow and become a better version of yourself every single day.
Exactly. And it goes into the adage of people forget, we hear be careful what you wish for because you may get it.
Right.
But there's also another part of that people forget is be careful what you wish for because you may get it, but it may not be what you expect. And
Right.
so that's the part that I feel like, yeah, everybody forgot that part. And so they feel like, no, I didn't get what I wanted. Well, you got what you needed, and
Yep.
it's not what you expected. And so we're sorry, but this is what you needed. You got exactly what you did ask for. It's just not the picture you envisioned. Sorry,
Yeah,
but not our
exactly.
fault.
Right. Yep. Yeah. You're really in charge of your own life. You really are.
And so, as interesting as this is, I want to switch a little bit because we kind of hinted at it earlier, and that is with everything you've done, what was your aha moment that you sat down and said, I could heal these childhood traumas, which will help me break these generational cycles, and then turn around and say, now let me share that with the world?
So, um, so what I decided was I wanted to do when I started healing and becoming the next version of myself. I wanted to give something to the world that would help them kind of learn and grow, and I wanted to share all this knowledge I had that I had went through. And so I decided to do a magazine. I was like, I'm going to write a magazine. And so I put together, it was called Aura Sense Guide, and it had energy in it, and it had like healing stones, and then it had motivation, and then like a book list. Like it was just like a resource, like a positive resource. And I just printed it out like at a printer, and I went into the local businesses in my area, right? Mostly hair salons, banks, places like that. And I said, hey, can I leave this in your waiting room? Like there's no fee for it or anything. I just wanted to leave it there to kind of help people to get the conversation going, I guess, and give people
Right.
because I didn't have that growing. I didn't have a lot of that growing up. So I was like, if people could learn what they're worth, then that could change their entire lives. And so I just wanted to leave like those around at local businesses. And the businesses were like, no, this is terrible. Like they didn't want nothing to do with it. They were like straight to my face. Were like, I think this is witchcraft. You have stuff about healing and stuff about stones. And it wasn't anything like that. It didn't even have a real metaphysical basis. It was more of a positive basis, but they were so taken aback by it. And I was like, okay. I was like thinking about giving up. And then it was brought up, you should do a website. Like, why don't you do a website? And this was back in the day of like the gateway computers, sitting in the corner of the room and dial up internet. And so I'd have to load up pictures. I'd have to load them at night and then let it run all night long. So in the morning, the pictures were uploaded. Like that's what the internet was like in my area back then. And so I started a website, and in doing that, I had come across a publisher, and he had reached out to me learning about my website because I was just running my mouth all over online trying to get this website going, and I was having people send in like recipes and just like just all positive stuff, just a feel good website to go to, right? And good news stories about people doing good things in the community, and not just my community, but all over the country and stuff like that. And I started running that website, and this publisher emailed me and he said, hey, would you want to review books? And I was like, yes, of course, I would love to. So he started sending me books, and kept doing my website. And then I decided I wanted a book for my children because I homeschooled my girls. And I was like, I want something that they can pick up, but they have to do the activities in it. And I want him to learn about like energy and Reiki and like all of the things, right? And also learn about positive self-worth and self-effort, self-talk, and all of those things. But I want them to have to do the activities so they feel a sense of accomplishment. So I looked online. I ordered some books from Amazon. I could not find what I was looking for. And I remember it. I mean, it's so vivid in my memory. I was sitting at the desktop computer and my girls were sitting at the table doing schoolwork. And I turned around and looked at them and I was like, you guys, I cannot find anything. I'm like, I'm just going to write it. And they were like, yeah, you should write it. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing. And I immediately turned around and sent out an email to that publisher that had been sending me the books for review. And I said, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? And he immediately emailed me back and was like, can you get it to me by Wednesday? And this was like a Sunday. And I was like, of course. So I wrote the whole book in like 3 days, but it went through edits and all that stuff. And I remember sending out the manuscript because it wasn't like the internet now, because now my book's it's all online, right? I do everything with him online. I don't send any paper copy, but back then I had to send the paper copy. And so I printed it out, and me and my girls like had it in a manila envelope, and we were like sitting on the living room floor, and I'm like, okay, here's to like helping other people, and here's to our future and whatever. And we all like put our hands on it, and then we took it to the post office and mailed it. And then here we are 7 books later, and just growing, helping, and building, helping people heal all over the world, which is just a really cool thing. But that was really the moment when I was like, I think people need to hear my story, because people can be scared to speak their truth, but when they hear other people speaking it, it gives them that confidence sometimes. And I also want people to know you're not alone. Like, I've been there. I was in the trenches. Like, if I can pull myself out of it, so can you. And I've got all of these tools that I used, and I want to give them to you. And they might work. They might plant seeds. They might work now. They might work 5 years down the road. I don't know when they're going to work for you, but you have them. You have the opportunity, and I'm here to cheer you on and help you. And I just think there's something so powerful in that, of knowing you're not alone in that journey.
And what's amazing is, everybody looks at the world today and they don't realize, and I'm going to kind of age myself in this scenario, is like you were saying, all the hardships just to get a simple message out.
Right. Yeah.
What we had to go through, and all the judgments and all the fears that people had around it, because it was a different topic. It
Oh,
wasn't the
yeah.
mainstream topic. And so everybody was like, no, no. And yet you pushed through, and now today it's everyday conversation. And so I just, I like to acknowledge, the fortitude and perseverance that you had to have
Right.
to be able to stand up to all of those no's, to be where you are today, to where those no's are now maybes or yeses, because you didn't give up, and neither did everybody else that was trying to get the message out, the positivity and everything. And so I just want to acknowledge, that it wasn't an easy time. It wasn't the easy road like we have today. And I'm not saying it's super easy today, but it is, like, I would venture to say, and you can chime in if you want, Robin, it's like 30 to 50 times easier today to get the message out than when we were growing up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just talking about aromatherapy, people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's taboo." In my community, I'm not kidding. Like, people would call my mom and be like, "I'm really worried about Robin. She's using, like lavender on her kids' burns and stuff, and or whatever." And people would literally were so scared of what they didn't know, and that's still the case with not necessarily these topics, but people are always scared of what they don't know. And I always encourage people, like, what you don't know can empower you. So find out more about it, learn more about it. Like, I think it only takes one yes for your life to change, right? And that's
Right.
that's something that I really live by. And so I'm a risk taker. Like, I have on my Jeep, I have risks greater than regret, and I have it tattooed on my ribs right here because I live by that. Risk is always greater than regret. and you have this one life, right? And even if you live 100 years, that's not that much time. That's really not. That's what, 100 summers? And you're going to sit around and waste your
Yeah.
summer complaining because you don't have this, you don't have that, instead of like getting out and living. Like, no, no, I'm not accepting that in my life. I'm not going to be 80 years old and going, man, I wish I would have done that when I could have, but I didn't because I was too scared. Like, get out there and live your life. If there's anything that I could just reiterate over and over to people, is like, this is your one show. This is your life, and you have control. And yeah, you might not have all the finances and you might not have all of the things that you want, but you can get there. You can build it, you can make it happen, but you have to do it. And that's what a lot of people don't want to hear. They want to complain about, their favorite pop not being stocked at the grocery store, instead of getting out and making shit happen, because it's easier to sit around and complain. And we are creatures of habit. We like easy. I mean, I like things to be comfortable and easy too. I enjoy the easy things of my life, but I also like the thought of, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to experience this. This is my life, and I'm always reminding myself of that, because it can change. I mean, we all get shown all the time how quickly life can change. So why are you sitting around complaining and wishing and hoping and wanting? No, get up and do something about it. Take action. Talk all day long, get nothing done. You got to
Yeah.
get up and do it.
Yeah, and I had a ex-girlfriend, and we would always like rub each other a little bit because it wasn't, anything that she, anything about her. It was little things that she would do. And like, she had her refrigerator talk to her phone to tell her what she needed to order. I'm like, if you open the door and you don't have something or you're low on something, you can place the order. And she goes, well, no, but my refrigerator will tell me what I'm low on and will order it for me. And I'm like, do you realize how scary that sounds? Like, you're low on pop. Well, maybe you're wanting to cut back. Your refrigerator doesn't know that. It's going to order you pop and it's going to
Yeah,
show
that's
up.
that's
And
that's crazy to me. That's interesting.
yeah. And so the generate, I almost said our generation, but it's the generation now. They want everything at a push of a button, don't have to lift a finger to go do anything.
Yeah, they're
And
really they're really getting ripped off though. They
yeah,
are. Yeah, they're not getting they're missing out on, and I'm not saying all of that generation. I mean, but some people, I just feel like it's too a lot of stuff's too easy, and so it's like instant gratification, and so you're missing out on like the nitty-gritty of life. Like, I think that the I will stand by my age group of growing up, which is like, I was a kid in the 80s. Like, that was badass. Yeah, that
oh
was the
yeah,
best. That was the absolute best time to be growing up. And so I'm really grateful for all of that time that we were running free and just being a kid. Even though I had a rough childhood, I still love that time period, and to me it was the best time period. But we
yeah.
probably
And
everybody thinks that probably about their age.
the only thing that was I noticed that was like different about me from other kids in the '80s is I'm a guy, but if I was doing some activity and my hands got dirty or something, I would go and I would have to go wash them off. I was like, I did not like dirt on me.
That was your thing.
Or if like I got done cutting the lawn, instead of going and changing clothes, I learned to wear my swimsuit
Oh,
because I'll just jump in the pool and that'll cool
there
me
you
off and wash me off and I'm ready for the day. And it's like I just didn't like.
go. Are you
And
still like
now, no, now I'm like, if I get dirt on me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll wash it off later when I'm done. I
that?
don't
Right.
have to go race off and do it.
That's funny. And we all have
But
our things, right?
yeah, and you have a fan in the chat room. Anina too writes,
Oh yeah,
Robin's first
Anne.
book
Yep.
is awesome.
Hey, Anne. Thank you. Yeah, she's been a friend of mine for a long time. She's a great lady. Mm.
Well, that's awesome. And so, what are signs or things that people can look for when looking at like childhood traumas that can say now's the time to look at them, and here are ways where you can look at them so you don't have to get emotionally charged by it.
I think that all of us have childhood trauma, no matter what. Even people who have cookie cutter, the best childhood, there's still issues that arise. And one of the things that I talk a lot about in my online course and stuff is that these childhood traumas are directly impacting the way our lives are today. So you find a person who has abandonment wounds, right, from childhood. That is going to bleed over into their adulthood. That's going to have an effect on the relationships they have, the way that they treat their kids, the way that they treat their significant other, because of these childhood wounds that they haven't healed yet. So they're living their life through a wounded eye. And that's what I call it in my books and stuff, because what happens is you go through a traumatic situation like abandonment as a kid, and then you start seeing the majority of life through that wound. And so that's how you're interpreting everything. So you can't get out of that. You just keep repeating that cycle and staying and having that vision of the wound, and everything around you ends up being, like I said, bled on by that wound, that you're unable to actually live a healthy, free life of not dealing with those abandonment wounds, not feeling that neglect, not living in those toxic relationships. A lot of toxic relationships and anxiety are because of the childhood trauma that you went through, but you're not interested in healing that. You're like, fix me now. What's wrong with me now? What's the issue that I'm having now? But it's really the issues you're having now are directly related to that childhood trauma that you haven't healed yet. And that's really what I try to teach people too, is I'm like, look at what it's whatever your challenge is now. Say it's anxiety. You're having this anxiety based off of some kind of situation that happened when you were a child that you never healed. That's what I want to help get to the bottom of for people. That's what I want to help people heal, is those wounds that are still gaping wide open and are affecting our lives now. Because it's just proven scientific facts. And there's so many, all of the things, all of the activities and exercises and healing lessons that I show people and teach people are all scientifically backed. They're not just, it's not like woo woo stuff like people call it. This is actually scientifically backed stuff that you can use and implement into your daily life, change your habits, and then actually live free, not have that anxiety, not have that toxic relationship. Because when you start improving yourself, this is the craziest thing, but people start dropping like flies. Like when you start becoming a better version of yourself, people can't hang with it because they're not healed themselves and they don't want to. That's another thing. If you don't want to heal, I can literally give people every tool in the entire world and spend countless hours with them. But if you don't want to make the changes, then you won't, because it's up to you. Like this is your show, this is your life. And so you can't, it's just like people who like try to implement things onto their children, for example. And they're like, my kid's not going to do this and not going to do this and not going to do this. Their kid's going to do what their kid's going to do. You can guide them, you can influence them, you can give them the tools needed to help them have structure and a foundation. But ultimately, your kid is going to do what they want to do. So it works the same way with us. We're going to do what we want to do. So if you don't want to change, you don't want to invest in yourself, you don't think you're worth that, then why waste somebody's time? You know what I mean? Like why put yourself through that if you're not ready?
Right.
You're not. I don't know if that makes sense. That sounds kind of harsh, but you get what I mean, I think. So,
I do, and it does make sense. And sometimes the truth is harsh, and
yeah.
you just have to deal with it. But I know that sounds harsh too. But
Hmm.
sorry, it is what it is.
Right.
But I'm curious, when you're doing your motivational talks and you're doing your online presentations and everything, what do you do when you come across the person who says, "Oh, I've healed my childhood traumas. I've healed this and this." And, and they're, it's like, what do you do with that? Because in my opinion, I'd be sitting there saying, no offense, but then why are you here?
Right, and I think that you can heal, you can feel like your childhood trauma's healed, but you're gonna face things. You might have only went to this area of your childhood trauma where you have some anxiety wounds and you didn't look into your abandonment wounds. There's always I don't know, there's always multiple things that you go through in childhood that create childhood trauma, the adverse experiences. But in that situation, I would tell somebody, if you feel like you're totally healed, if you feel like that you're at the best version of yourself, then okay. Okay, then good for you. Then that's where you're at. If you're still having issues and you feel like you've healed all of your childhood trauma, then maybe we need to look in a different direction. Maybe we need to look more into what you're doing in your current life. What situations are causing you this unhappiness, this anxiety, this miserableness in your current life? Because then we need to start looking at those situations. Because I think it's hand in hand, like your childhood trauma and then your daily trauma or your young adulthood trauma, because like my all of my healing that I needed and that I continue to need, because you're always working on yourself, is not just my childhood trauma. There's choices I made in my young adulthood. There's choices I made 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So there's always something like that to heal and to improve on, but you have to want to do it. We're always going to go back to, you have to want to do it. And I mean, I cheer on anybody who's making that progress, whether with the little steps, the big steps, whatever you're doing to make yourself feel better and feel like you're in control and taking a hold of your life, then I applaud you. And I hope that you're healing every single day. Whatever that looks like for you, because it looks different for all of us.
Mm, right now, we're living in a world where the new catchphrase is like almost like the inner child. Everybody's focused on the inner child. Do you view the inner child as just childhood traumas that are there, or do you view the inner child as, okay, this is the aspect of you that is carrying the baggage of past lives, every scenario and every experience you've had in the womb into reality and grown up? I even started thinking, about, well, we're focused on the inner child, but what about the inner teenager, inner adult? What happens when the inner child grows up?
Right.
Because he doesn't always stay a child, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. So for me, the inner child to me is those versions of you that were like neglected. And I think inner child and childhood trauma get intermingled. And I think that's okay. I think that a lot of people interpret, like they're saying, as a kid, I didn't get to have the freedom to express myself because I had a really strict parent who made me dress a certain way. So then as an adult, they're dressing however they want. And I think that's a form of healing your trauma. So I think that, I don't know, I think they go hand in hand. I really do. But I think that there's a lot of gameplay about inner child versus like the actual healing, the nitty gritty. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm saying that, yeah. But I think that there's value in. I personally think anything anybody does to improve themselves is a win. Whether it's the smallest thing, it's getting up and not choosing a donut and choosing a piece of fruit. You know what I mean? Like all of these small changes lead to the big changes in your life. And that's what it all comes down to, is changing your habits. You have to change your mindset, you have to change your habits, and you have to stick to it, consistency. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating the same cycles. It's what happens. Look at New Year's resolutions. That's a perfect example. People get so overjoyed at the new year, and we're going to do this, and this, and they set these huge goals, unrealistic goals. And then halfway through it, 2 weeks into it, they're like, oh, I didn't make this goal. Of course not. Break your goals up in smaller steps. I have a book called Life Check. And that book is all about that kind of stuff, like how you break it into small steps, how you form your habits and things like that. And it's really focused on the motivational part of putting sticky notes throughout your house, reminding you, of different positive things about yourself. There's like a lot of activities like that. So that's kind of getting down to the breakdown of you as an adult versus the healing of your childhood trauma.
Right. And what do you think, about like where I say, we have the inner child, but we also have inner teenage, inner young adult, inner adult, because to me, I feel like the inner child isn't a perpetual Peter Pan where it's forever young and forever a child. It's eventually going to grow up. We are growing up. So, do you feel like that's, a true theory that, the inner child's not going to stay a child?
Well, I think when people are healing their inner child and they're like doing the inner child play activities and stuff, they're focused just on that age group. So I don't see any reason why there couldn't and wouldn't be focused on the other age groups like you're talking about, where there is the healing and the doing the work on the inner child, and then there's the healing and doing the work on the inner teenager. And so I can agree with that there would be different stages of that inner child, inner person, whatever. I mean, even like 10 years ago, that part of you is so different. And it blows my mind at how much we can change in just such a short amount of time. Like I always say, people complain about aging and stuff, and I'm like, absolutely not. It's a privilege, right? But I always think about, like, I'm better now than I was 6 months ago. And I'm way better now than I was 5 years ago. I'm just keeping on improving and healing and growing and becoming this different version. And I think that's what we're designed to do as human beings. And that happens through healing, and that happens through healing the hard stuff, and it happens through making that choice to heal that hard stuff. And not everybody's ready for that.
Yeah. So, I have an interesting question that I'm curious about your take on is, we grew up with, there was legends of like the chosen one would be like the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son.
Okay.
It was like there was something unique and special about that particular person. Do you think that certain people are born with, say, a soul contract or something that when they reach a certain age, they're going to have the strength and the ability to turn around and say, you know what? For generations, we've done this. It's not working anymore. It's time to change. And I am putting my proverbial foot or sword in the ground, and I'm making my stand here and now, and we are changing this. Do you think that that's how, some people are more, adept to doing that? Or do you think it's just the spirit has had enough and they're like, okay, time to change? We're at that pivotal point.
I think that some people are just forged in the fire. I think some people are meant to be game changers, and I think that the the harder situations you go through, the stronger you become. I know that that's a fact. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I think I don't know. I guess I haven't really thought of it that way. I just think that eventually there's people in the generational line, and they're just like, that's enough. Like, I don't want this to be my story, and I'm the person that has to change that. And then you have to be strong enough to do it. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it becomes a personal choice at some point or another, But then my uncle used to say, when I was young, he used to say, Robin's so different from the other kids. Robin's so different. And he used to tell all the adults that, like, there's something different about her. So I don't know. Maybe that is the case. Maybe there is a blueprint on my life, and this is the trajectory it was supposed to go. But I fully believe in self-creating. I believe that we create our own reality. I think it's based on the choices that we make, and what we choose to do with those choices. Almost like those books, those adventure books, like turn to page whatever or turn to page
Yeah.
whatever.
Choose your own adventure. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that that's true, because it just takes one decision for your entire life to be different. And that's just a fact. And that's why one of my most annoyances is when people say, oh, it's just another day. It's just one day. No, it's not. Like everything happens in one day. Everything happens in one day. So you have to live to your fullest each day. And I'm not saying that I'm on all the time, because I have moments I wake up and I'm off, but I remind myself so quickly how fast life can change, what an absolute privilege it is to be alive, and how I don't want to waste any of my time. Like my childhood was what it was. I couldn't make those choices or do anything about it. But I will be damned if now as an adult, I'm going to live in those same cycles and go through the same things and struggle when it's up to me. Like this is my show. So to me, that's enough for me to make the choices I want to make to live a strong life, to make my mission to help others do the same, and show them how to do the same. And that's enough for me. Like I don't want to go back to that life. I don't want to live a hard life. So that's motivation that puts me to the next level and keeps me thriving and going every single day and working really hard, because I don't want to live that life again. And I think you get to that point in your life where you're like, enough's enough. And then you're ready to make changes. So you do.
Yeah, yeah, I agree because I used to feel like you were saying, the quote being forged and going, if I didn't have those experiences, I couldn't be relatable to a lot of people because I've lived through so many different type experiences that I have a frame of reference for everyone. So I started going, maybe that's why I grew up the way I did. And then I was like, yeah, but I probably could have learned those without that. But
Not
yeah, I
this.
guess.
Yeah.
But the thing that, kind of makes me laugh, like, you're talking about the Choose Your Own Adventure series books. As much wisdom and knowledge that I have, even to this day, I will pick one of those up and I always end up dead. It's like I can never, I'll even go to the last page where you succeed and try to go backwards. And I'm like, I can't even go backwards.
Well,
Like,
that is how our story ends, isn't it? That's how our adventure ends.
yeah, I find it so interesting that it's like, why is it I can't read this book series and ever, make it to the end? Like, yes, we solved the mystery. Yes, we got it. Everything. Nope, it was you took a wrong turn and sorry,
Yeah, that's,
your
that's
adventure ends now.
yeah. Yep.
So, and why, talking about the fear and everything, do you think that's the driving force of why, like, people, when you say, you can make a single choice and it won't be easy, but you can change this cycle and end it, where people are like, nope. Do you think it's the fear inside them that just they give into it too much, they give it too much power and have lost their ways, or it just isn't time and you have to be patient and just wait for them to find their time?
I think that people are very fear based, and they're very scared of change. They're scared of not knowing. And so for them, the risk is not greater than that fear. They see, maybe I didn't say that right. The risk of something is extremely fearful to them. And so it's easier. Like I said, we are creatures of habit. Our nervous system likes to be calm. Our brain is programmed for survival. So when we start doing something new, our brain's like, wait, 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 wait. I didn't approve this. Like, what's going on? What are you thinking? Like, do you just stay right where you're at in your little bubble where you're safe? And even if you're unhappy, even if it's a less than ideal situation, it's what you know and it's easy. So we're gonna stay there. And your brain will try to convince you of that. And if you're not strong enough to go, okay, I need to step out of my comfort zone. Nothing good happens in your comfort zone. That's exactly what it is. It's easy, it's comfortable, and we all like that. I like that too. I'm a normal human, but to step out of that is where you really start to live. It's where you really start to experience things. And you have to let go of that fear of the unknown, the fear of failure. Most people, if you ask them why they don't just go out and, go out and do the things they want to do, and majority of the time it's, fear of failure. What are my friends going to say? What if this happens? What if this happens? And the what ifs of the world will keep you trapped forever. Like you're literally keeping yourself in a cage by with the what ifs. So you have to make the choice that risk is greater than regret. And you have to be aware. I'm not saying just throw caution to the wind. That's not what I'm implying here. But I'm saying face those fears, look at them and see what you need to do to take that next step, to get out of that comfort zone, and then start doing that. Start taking little baby steps. It doesn't have to be an all-in thing, Change doesn't have to be okay, this is what I'm doing and everything's changing and I'm quitting my job and I'm leaving my spouse. That's not what change has to be. You can take the steps. You just got to figure out what direction you want to go and then how you're going to get there, and then build the blueprint, build the roadmap. And that's really what I do in my workshops. Build people a blueprint to get them from their fear-based, scared of change into the life that they want to live. And so I do think that fear plays a very big part in people staying where they're at and staying stuck and unhappy.
That makes sense. And I just want to point out we're at the hour. So I don't know if you need to go or if you have time for a little bit more conversation.
I have to get going because I get up at 4 a.m. for work.
Okay.
But I could come back. I could come back
Yes, definitely.
for sure.
I have so many more questions in my mind, and I'm like enjoying the conversation, but I totally respect that you got to be up early. So we will definitely have you back on. And I just want to give you an opportunity super quick to let people know where they can find your books and if they have questions, the best way to get a hold of you.
Yep, you can find my books anywhere, Amazon, any kind of like Barnes and Noble, any bookstore in your local town. If they don't have it, they can order it. And you can find me at robinmarvel.com. I'm also on Facebook under Robin Marvel and TikTok under I am Robin Marvel. So you can find me all of those places. You can also Google me, Robin Marvel author, and all of my information will come up there too. So
Very cool. And thank you for coming on and thank you for trusting me as a host. And one last message I'll make real quick for you. And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's seen, heard, and appreciated.
thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too. And thank you to everyone in the chat room. And thank you to everyone that's watching this episode. Have a wonderful night and rest of the week. And we will see you on the next one. And with that, I will say good night, everyone.
Good night.